If AMD is serious about selling full AI systems instead of just chips, the winners may not be limited to the stock ticker that says AMD. The bigger opportunity could sit across the AI infrastructure supply chain, the rack builders, networking vendors, and integration partners that get paid if these systems actually ship at scale. On February 23, 2026, coverage from outlets including the Economic Times highlighted that Advanced Micro Devices is pushing a rack-scale AI system called Helios, with India positioned as a strategic deployment market. Helios is designed as a fully integrated AI rack, 72 Instinct MI455X GPUs in a single rack, delivering up to roughly 2.9 exaflops of FP4 compute, with massive aggregate HBM4 memory and system-level power density around 220 kilowatts per rack based on reported system briefings. This isn't just another GPU launch. Helios bundles CPUs, GPUs, networking, and the ROC-M software stack into a turnkey rack aimed at hyperscalers, cloud providers, and what AMD describes as sovereign AI factories. In India, AMD announced a partnership with Tata Consultancy Services to support deployments targeting up to 200 megawatts of AI capacity for local customers. Earlier, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise announced a Helios-based rack offering built around those same 72 GPUs. The timeline matters. AMD first outlined Helios as an open rack-scale concept in late 2025. HPE formalized a rack offering in December. Now, in February 2026, AMD is pairing the product with geographic expansion and system-level partners. That progression signals intent: move up the stack from component supplier to infrastructure provider. Why is AMD doing this? Because silicon margins alone may not capture the full economics of the AI build-out. The dominant GPU supplier today monetizes not just chips, but ecosystem lock-in, software, and system integration advantages. If AMD wants to narrow that gap, it needs to sell complete solutions, not just accelerators that get slotted into someone else's rack. Strategically, Helios positions AMD to capture more revenue per deployment. Instead of selling a GPU and handing off integration to an OEM, AMD can influence the entire system architecture: CPUs, networking via Pensando, and its ROC-M software layer. That potentially expands total addressable revenue from chip per server to rack per data center. In large AI clusters, that distinction is significant. But financially, nothing changes until racks ship and orders convert to revenue. In the near term, the next 1 to 4 quarters, the impact is limited. Helios systems are targeting initial availability in the second half of 2026. Announcements and partnerships are necessary steps, but they are not bookings. That's why the stock reaction on February 23rd was modest. AMD traded slightly lower in a broadly weak session. There was no clear repricing tied solely to the Helios headlines. The real financial shift happens only if Helios scales. If hyperscalers or large enterprises commit to multi-rack deployments, AMD could add system-level revenue on top of GPU sales. That could lift data center revenue growth and potentially improve gross margins if AMD captures value from integrated hardware and software rather than competing purely on chip pricing. However, margins could also compress initially. Rack-scale systems require integration, support, and possibly aggressive pricing to win early deals. If AMD subsidizes entry to gain share, short-term profitability may not expand. Wall Street knows this. Analysts are waiting for evidence: customer wins, shipment volumes, and proof that Helios performs competitively on energy efficiency and throughput. This is where the broader investment angle becomes more interesting. If Helios ramps, system integrators and networking suppliers benefit alongside AMD. HPE stands to gain from selling pre-configured Helios racks. TCS benefits from deployment and managed services revenue in India. Networking silicon, switch vendors, and interconnect suppliers tied to high-density AI clusters could see incremental demand. In other words, the AI infrastructure stack broadens beyond one GPU name. If Helios fails to gain traction, the opposite occurs. Competitors consolidate dominance. OEM relationships deepen elsewhere, and AMD remains primarily a silicon challenger. That would limit any valuation multiple expansion tied to system ambitions. Short-term, sentiment is neutral to mildly constructive. The strategy is clear, but the proof is not yet visible in earnings. Expect volatility only if concrete orders or hyperscaler commitments emerge. Without that, the stock will likely trade on broader data center growth expectations and macro conditions. Long-term, over 6 to 24 months, this becomes a structural question. If Helios demonstrates repeatable rack sales and durable differentiation, it shifts from being a component vendor to an integrated AI infrastructure provider. That would justify a higher revenue base and possibly a higher earnings multiple. If not, the market will continue valuing AMD primarily on chip competitiveness and share gains within existing server frameworks. For investors, the practical implications are straightforward. AMD is a major holding in semiconductor and broad technology ETFs. Any successful ramp would flow through passive exposure. Retirement accounts tied to tech-heavy indexes already have indirect exposure to this optionality. There is no immediate dividend change to consider, as AMD's capital allocation remains growth-focused rather than income-oriented. The key signals to watch are specific: confirmed rack orders, hyperscaler endorsements, shipment timing in the second half of 2026, gross margin trends in the data center segment, and commentary about system-level revenue as a percentage of total sales. If those metrics move, valuation models will adjust quickly. The bottom line is this: Helios is not yet a financial event. It is a strategic positioning move. But if it converts into real system revenue, the profit pool widens, not just for AMD, but for the AI infrastructure suppliers around it. The opportunity is not in the announcement, it is in the execution.